Welcome everybody to the Title Alone Podcast, where we watch and review movies based solely on their title. We have the impossible job of avoiding all trailers, posters, and anything else to do with movies, just so that we can go into the movie spoiler-free. This episode, we're seeing Call of the Wild. Welcome to the show. So, it's Call of the Wild. I keep calling it Into the Wild.
Yeah, and that's a different.
But
that's
it's
a different
not.
film.
It is. But I've decided that Call of the Wild is the prequel to Into the Wild, where he's just getting the feelings that he should go to a bus
I see.
and die.
So I had a real fear very early on because I was like, "Wait, Call of the Wild? Oh my God, this is a remake. I've seen this movie. Why don't either of the other two guys know this? I feel like I'm cheating all of a sudden because I know what movie this is, and I don't know if I'm right." And then I realized, oh, Call of the Wild is not Into the Wild. So
Yeah.
So we're
Yeah.
good. We're good there.
Yeah.
So I still don't know what it's about.
I think I may have been in the same boat, but I'm not sure what Into the Wild is.
It's
so-
the one with Emil Hirsch. Well, it's a book
Yeah.
where a guy dies at the end. It's we shouldn't joke about it because it is sad, but it's okay to joke about it. So
What a
it's
roller coaster.
it's Emil Hirsch, where he is fed up with society, and I'm gonna make a plug. The soundtrack is done by Eddie Vedder of Pearl Jam. It's fantastic, but he's fed up with society, and he forges his own path through
yeah,
Alaska,
yeah.
and then dies a terrible, horrible death from eating the wrong seeds, which is also actually incorrect. You can't die from those seeds, but that's
yes,
fine.
I did see that movie.
It's very good.
It's most likely that he died of other things that were also, because people blame him that it's his fault, he didn't know, blah, blah. But to be honest, he was not a seasoned survivalist, so understandably, shoving yourself into terrible parts of Alaska, it's not going to do well. But
You can live a normal life in Alaska and die in your car
yeah.
on the side of the road.
So
Yeah, my battery died today. If my battery died in Alaska,
Yeah,
in the middle of nowhere with no phone, no way to contact people, I could just die.
yeah, the thing though is that most people that live in Alaska live in the cities. Like,
That's true.
Not a lot of people live outside of like Fairbanks.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it'd be terrible.
Well, yeah.
Well, I mean, depends on if you want to be a rugged bushman.
I don't want that.
So not Into the Wild.
Not into the
Not into the
wild.
wild.
So I decided what it is a coming of age movie that has a boy and a dog, and I'm not gonna say the dog is dead because I will be devastated if they murder a dog. Because every movie that's like White Fang and Call of the Wild and Old Yeller and Where the Red Fern Grows, it's just people's dogs dying and them having to come to terms with it.
There's a website for that, actually.
I don't
Did you know
know.
that?
No,
So,
I
so
don't.
there's actually a
Does the dog
website
die
that
in
you
the
can.
end?
Yeah,
.com?
does
We
the
can
dog
not talk
die?
about
Yeah.
dying dogs. We can talk about the dude that died in Alaska trying to survive, but
dogs
let's not
are a
talk about
different
that.
story.
Yeah, dogs
not
are too sad.
That's why in John Wick, that's why.
That's why John
That's
Wick
the whole
works.
entire premise of John Wick.
The essence of John Wick is that
Yeah.
dog.
So I said, I was talking to Jan about it, and I said it's a boy coming of age movie. But then she said, "Who do you think's in it?" And I said Zac Efron.
You say Zac Efron every time.
I don't. Last time I said Brad Pitt.
Oh, sorry.
I don't really know
I said
actors
George
that well.
Clooney.
That's the problem. So she said, "Do you realize Zac Efron isn't really? He's not really. I'm sorry. He's not really coming of age anymore." And I said, "I didn't know that." And I thought Zac Efron was younger. And she goes, "No, he plays like mid-20s now."
Well, it's because he's like over 30 now.
I realize that now, but I made my guess in my head, and now the main character is Zac Efron dressed as a small boy. Trying to survive
he's wearing
in the
overalls
woods.
and
He is.
he's
It's
got a
just-
cowlick.
Yeah.
He's got a dog
Yeah.
and he has a lisp.
What
Is
do you
that
think,
your
Ryan?
guess?
Yeah, that's what it
Okay,
is. What do you
good.
think, Ryan?
Well, I've been spoiled somewhat. So
Oh, well, you're not allowed to guess it. Get out
yeah,
of here.
I can't really guess.
All right.
All right. So
But-
okay, go on.
Go on, go ahead.
You said you're not gonna guess.
All right, fine. No guesses.
Okay.
No guesses for you. You should have the blanket of shame.
The blanket of shame. I've only seen the cover, so.
Yeah, that kind of informs.
I mean, I
Yeah,
assume it's in the
gives-
woods.
It is in the woods, but it could tell, the main character.
Wants it
you
not
can
be in the
kinda
woods at all.
understand. That's true. Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
Once again, it could be a financial drama.
I have an idea for what it is. That's
Yeah.
when we're way off. What's your guess on what it is?
All right, so I think it's because I'm kind of been informed by Into the Wild in a way, because it's like it just makes sense. It's not going to be the same
I like
movie.
that you've been informed by a movie that's completely not this movie.
Well, no, by informed I mean I have ideas. Okay, so it's I feel like I'm on the right track with Into the Wild, but more. I mean, I already mentioned Hatchet once because it's on the brain. Because I think this is basically Hatchet. I think this is gonna be like, I don't think it's gonna be, because I think Hatchet was what is an airplane crash. It's like a single engine Cessna.
I think his parents get divorced and he's
Hold
going.
on. Which Hatchet are we talking about? Because there's Hatchet, the original one. Then there's Brian's Winter. All right, I didn't read any books in school. But
I didn't
read
read any
Hatchet.
books either. All I saw was the movie.
The Hatchet movie? I never
Yes.
saw the movie.
I
Yeah,
only
that's
read the
only thing
books.
I
Gary
actually
Paulson
saw.
may be my favorite author because he may be the only books I've read.
Yeah, I've read 3 books. They're all Gary Paulson. Therefore, he's my favorite author. So I think it's going to be a very, very Hatchet-esque, like, boy in the woods survival. Like, probably has a dog. Do I need to get more specific than that? I guess that's
No, if you do, you're gonna fail.
Yeah, that's true. But I thought we were supposed to be specific, so we can fail even harder.
Just
Okay,
Zac Efron is probably not in it. I'm gonna put that out
I'm
there.
already winning because Zac Efron's name was dropped. So I'm gonna go with there's a boy named Ron.
Ron.
That's super specific.
It is
Yeah,
very
that's
specific.
worse than saying Zac Efron.
I don't think it is. I think I'm still winning because Zac Efron is very far from A Boy Named Ron, which is a different movie. I feel like that movie exists. A Boy Named Ron.
I'm sure it does.
Probably does. So
Okay.
that's my guess, and his dog is named Winter.
Winter.
Winter, the dog.
So, can we place bets?
Okay.
Does the dog die?
Oh,
If-
absolutely.
All the
I can-
marbles say the dog either lives or dies.
Yeah.
I'm
If a
going-
dog dies, I'm gonna be very upset.
No.
I'm placing bets that the dog dies, and there's a very heartfelt scene with Zac Efron in his overalls.
Yeah, he takes off his overalls to cover the dog.
just one shoulder.
Yeah.
One shoulder of overall.
Yeah, and he's like super.
That's
he's
where
like
he gets
weirdly
serious.
ripped.
Yeah.
He's weirdly ripped, and he just
For a
has
12-year-old
overalls on.
boy.
Yeah, he's like 12, but he's like jacked. Doesn't make any sense, but it's like Zac Efron's not gonna fatten up for a role, so he's just gonna be jacked out of his mind.
Can his older brother be? Because I saw a picture of Zac Efron, and I think it may have been from a movie, but I don't know. It was him all punked out, but he looked a lot like Jared Leto from Fight Club. So can his older brother be Jared Leto from Fight Club? And like this just leads into Fight Club. Like this is what starts the whole process of why Angel goes to Fight Club. His brother dies. Maybe it's the prequel to Fight Club, not the prequel to Into the Wild.
Is that your new guess?
No, it's not my new guess.
Are you
All right,
sure?
what is our
Rotten
how
Tomato.
wrong can we be?
Okay,
how wrong?
I have How Wrong We Could
Okay.
Be. It's actually an animated film about a call center in the middle of the woods that only the zoo creatures call in for help support. So they're an IT desk, animated, and it's Call of the Wild because the zoo animals are calling. I think
I thought we were about to go Rocco's Modern Life route. Where
in that same vein where they have regular jobs. See, the thing is that I think the problem we're having with how bad can we make movies, like what's the opposite of what we think it can be. Soon we're going to start seeing those movies because Hollywood is going to start listening to this. They're going to start
Yeah.
stealing our ideas. Probably not because they're terrible, but so what do you think? You can't get better than that.
I had it and then lost it.
Because of the
Yes.
greatest
No,
movie
because
ever
all I'm
made.
thinking about now is Rocco sitting at his desk
Fielding calls from zoo creatures?
at the sex line.
That's true. That's true. So, Brad, what do you think?
Man, it's hard because it's like it's just so definitely in the woods, right? But it could also very much not be in the woods. So I guess you know what I'll go with? I'll go with Call of the Wild. This is actually not a bad guess, but I'll go with how wrong we could be. What if it's somebody who came from the wild and they end up in the big city?
Oh,
You know,
I
so
didn't
now
think
it's
about
like,
that.
so then the call
Like-
of the wild is to come back to the wild. It's calling them.
Yeah, I didn't think about any of that.
So
that
that's
that's
actually
what I'm
makes
gonna go
sense.
with. I'm gonna go with
Yeah.
that, even though it's not a terrible
So
guess.
it's like it's like Jungle Book, but after he goes
Yeah,
to the village.
yeah.
and
it's
then-
like George of the Jungle.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah.
That's let's say that actually may be a real
Yeah,
thing. Where
So-
mine is clearly not.
yeah. You know, I mean, Zac Efron. You know, he could play a small boy, probably.
Probably.
If he really tried. I
Have
mean,
you
he has
seen
some
that
range.
man?
He has some range.
He's the most dynamic range of any actor I've ever seen. He could play from the ages of 8 to 42. if he would gain some weight and put some punch on, 68 easily.
Well, you know what? He did play that one movie. It was like 21 again, right?
I
So
don't
it was where
I think-
Chandler
yeah.
Bing played
Yeah.
was also
I
Zac Efron when he was a teenager,
remember.
which definitely was not accurate. So, all right, Rotten Tomatoes. What do we think it is pre movie?
I'm saying because I like my version so much, it's a 92.
92.
I know it's February, and I know that means it's bad,
Yeah.
but I like I like the movie in my head. I like it a lot, so
What-
I'm gonna say 92.
What do you think his score is going to be, Ryan?
I'm gonna give it a. I was not paying attention, but 72. I think 72. 72.
Poor Zac Efron.
Since we're not, again, we're not in great movie season, and Call of the Wild, I'll go with like a 60. I'll go with a solid 60. I think that's good enough. I think it's
Okay.
probably right in the middle somewhere.
All right,
So-
let's do this then.
All right.
Go Zac Efron. Just a heads up, the next part is going to be completely filled with spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie yet and don't want to be spoiled, stop here. So I don't know what to do when there's a movie that we see that is good, that I enjoy, that isn't, go left, that isn't, I think, absolute trash.
Trash baskets.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like I guess the first one was decent, but like I like it wasn't very deep as far as like concepts going into it. Like I feel like there's a lot that you could unpack from this. And so prior to seeing the movie, everybody kept saying, "You didn't read this in high school?" And I was kind of like, "No," but it didn't really give anything away, knowing that it's a book. I can see now why it is read in high school.
Yeah, well, I knew it'd be a kids movie, or like basically a kids movie, because it was like a high school thing. Can I say one thing though? So, I thought this was a kids movie, like 90% of the movie, and then I watched a dog burn a man alive.
Yes.
Literally, we had a moment where so there's a bunch of kids in the theater, and like their parents.
There was not.
There were.
Oh,
And
I
so there wasn't a bunch of like little kids.
There
but
wasn't a bunch
it
of
was-
people
it
in
was
the
young,
theater to begin with.
Yeah,
But
true.
the
So
demographic
So
was
it's two
skewed a
older
little
dudes.
low.
it was mostly parents and their kids.
Yeah.
So like they're laughing at all the ha ha ha, all the little jokes, and when the dog does something funny. But then they're completely silent when a dog pushes a man into a burning building and is proud that he lit a man burned him alive. And
They're
it was
also
just like
completely
really
silent when a dog team dies.
yeah.
No,
like that-
they got away. He said they ran off.
They ran
Oh,
off. They didn't
thank
show
God.
them. They didn't
Yeah.
show
I
them
missed
dying.
that line in the whole
No,
movie.
no, I
I'm
was paying
like,
attention.
this entire
I
dog
was like,
team
those,
is dead,
Those
and
dogs
I'm
better
like,
not be dead.
devastated.
No dog deaths.
no dog deaths, thank fuck. Because
Yeah.
the entire time I'm just
Well, now hold on. What about the
No.
Soka or whatever that
no,
dog
no,
pack?
ran
ran
off
off.
and he became other wolves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
So,
what if
like,
he was too mean and the
he's
other
not.
wolves didn't accept
That's not
him?
how wolves work.
I
Yeah.
know. I
Wolves are
also
like the
noticed.
meanest.
Okay, no, maybe it's timber wolves. Are timber wolves that small? Because wolves are almost always way bigger than dogs.
So, he was a massive dog to begin with.
He was big, but
So,
like
if we're going with So I've seen wolves in Canada. They're not big. So I think the further north you go, the smaller the wolf becomes. I don't know. I'm not a wolf expert in any way. But I know the big wolves are in like Montana.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if they get, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's also
I'm thinking of like regular full size like gray wolves.
but there's different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's different breeds.
There's definitely giant wolves, but
Yeah.
I don't think that these
So-
types of wolves were.
Yeah.
Yeah, but going back, it was definitely a kids movie. But
I would not
also-
say that is a kids movie.
Well, it
It
is a kids
definitely
movie.
is.
Just because a parent or an adult or anybody, any generation can enjoy
I
it,
guess-
doesn't make it not a kids
No,
movie.
I guess the concept, what I'm more thinking of, the concepts are mostly, that are in it, are mostly dealing with grief and loss.
Yeah.
And I guess they deal with it from a dog's perspective so that it is easier to,
Yeah.
for a child to unwrap that.
Yeah, the
Because,
other-
like, yeah.
The other hints that it's definitely a kids movie is that, like, there's no in-depth plot, and like everything that happens takes about 5 minutes for that mini plot to play out.
Oh yeah, one complaint I had is that it's a reason why I don't generally like kids movies, and why until about 3/4 of the way through I actually was not on board with this movie, is because I don't like my hand being held for a story,
Yeah,
and because it's a children's movie, my hand was held very tightly the entire time, and that's okay. It is a kids movie, but it's the reason why I don't normally see kids movies.
Yeah.
But it was really good. I mean, it was definitely a good movie.
I think the thing is that the source material is obviously classic literature.
Yeah.
And probably American literature at that. And so it's got a good foundation to start on. If everybody has to read this in high school, except for me, because I don't read
Or
anywhere in
me.
high school. Yeah. If you're supposed to read this in high school, it's obviously got some merit to it. And I mean, there's a lot more depth to it than the surface of, a dog goes to live in the woods. Like,
Yeah.
I imagine people that watch this are gonna be like, oh, the book was so much better. It's just like, okay, yeah,
Probably,
obviously.
yeah.
Okay.
Can we talk about the CG though?
Okay, so
How
I
much of that movie is real?
Oh, not
Because
much.
But
Yeah.
it is gorgeous.
So, okay, I was actually about to bring up the CG. So there's two options. Either the CG got better as the movie went on, or I got used to it. But when the dog was in the original, like, southern town,
Yeah.
I thought the CG was trash.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
bad. The dog looked terrible.
Yeah.
And I don't know I think I just got used to it.
I think what
But-
happened is the backgrounds then became CG. They probably filmed
Yeah.
the southern part because it's easy to do. It's just a house
Yeah.
in the real world. And
Yeah.
then once they got to the Alaskan wilderness, it's all fake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so putting a CG dog against a CG tree is a lot easier to do lighting and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely part of it. And,
Yeah.
But
I
one
mean-
thing, and it's one thing that's always very difficult is hair,
Yeah.
and all the dogs had long hair.
Yeah.
Also, melding live action, actors
Yeah. Yeah.
with CG elements is difficult. One thing I will say that should not be difficult, that was pretty bad, was the two CG dogs getting right next to each other, and it looked like there was just like a feather cloud. It was terrible between them.
Mhm.
It's like that should not be. They're both CG elements.
Yeah.
They-
But as a whole,
yes.
Oh, yeah.
The
Oh,
CG
like
in
when
this
they're on the
really well
river.
done.
And
Yeah.
stuff,
Oh, that was really
fucking
good.
beautiful.
Yeah,
And then-
the interaction between, you were saying like interaction between real elements and CG elements is hard. I thought they did a really good job with that.
Yeah.
Like everybody acted really well with the like CG animals, and like they were like at the end whenever that was Harrison Ford, right? I wasn't crazy.
no, it was Han Solo writing
Okay.
about Ben
All
Solo,
right,
his
just-
dead son.
Just double
Oh my
check.
god. it's the alternate universe where the son died instead of the father.
And he became a gold panda up
Yeah.
up in Alaska.
Yeah.
So point being, when he was laying his head on the dog, it was
Yeah.
very well
Yes,
done.
that was good. I was kind of referencing earlier in the movie where it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
But like I said, that's always difficult. The more the point I was making. It's like 2 CG elements, two
Yeah.
dogs specifically.
Yeah.
That I feel like they were comped together when
Yeah.
they should not have been.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't.
I
don't
think
know, it's really
the
weird.
more impressive part is that the CG dog, which is not real, so it has the Wall-E effect where you're trying to care about this. Obviously, it's a dog. They don't have an emotional spectrum that humans have. Just like Wall-E is a little robot, does
Yeah.
not have the. But at the end of Wall-E, you're like, somehow robots are falling in love, and
Yeah.
I care. Like, it's a fucking robot. But, and this is the same way. The way that dog, and if anybody's owned a dog, knows that dogs can be very expressive. They got those dog expressions down damn near perfect.
Yeah, they
like-
the
like,
expressions were
yeah.
were on point.
Like a dog being like stubborn, and a dog being like, they got the full spectrum of how dogs react
yeah.
for the most part, and it was believable.
Yeah.
Like 10 years ago, you would never have gotten a dog to act like it's not a real dog. And the whole time I would be immersed in some of the scenes where it's just a dog just playing in the woods, and you're just like, oh yeah, this is a fucking dog. This is a real dog. And then you have to kind of like, oh wait, this isn't real. They had to have watched thousands of hours of dog footage to just be like, his tail should be like this.
Yeah.
Because in the one scene where he fights the one dog to become the alpha, as that dog is leaving, he tucks his tail.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
can't see that in like he barely in the scene. He just walks across and his tail's tucked.
Yeah, because it was
Yeah.
it was focused on the dogs behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I noticed that specifically. I was like, oh, wow, that was really good.
Yeah, I do think they did a good job with the dog posturing. So like, every time that there was like an alpha change or there was anything to do with the alpha, they were always very careful. Like, okay, the dogs are gonna look at the alpha because that's what dogs do, and I think they did a really good job with that for sure.
But yeah, I thought it was, I would like to point out it is a coming of age film, but for a dog. So I was off, but
Well,
not that off.
I did say it was gonna be a boy and his dog story. It was an old man and his dog story.
It was many people in his dog story.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I would like to point out that I got the dog.
You were right.
Yeah.
Mike
You're
said the
right.
dog first.
Nah, I was wrong. I said Zac Efron. That was
Yeah,
he was-
Zac Efron got old, but he looked really good. So, yeah.
Yeah, he can
that's-
play any age.
Yeah, he has some range.
Oh, he
for
must
sure.
have put a little weight on. That's why he could play 68 and look a lot like Harrison Ford.
Yeah, or he just wore a fat suit because we know Zac Efron would
He wore
never
a fat
put on-
suit, and
yeah.
then they did a lot of CGI
Yeah, yeah.
on it to look a lot like Harrison Ford. It's really phenomenal, his range.
Yeah.
From, I mean, he could be anybody at this point. It's kind of like Matt Damon. But yeah, I did enjoy it.
Yeah, like at the beginning of the movie, I was like, I thought this might be difficult to sit through because
Mhm.
of first thing that got me was the CG, but I think part of that was basically the opening scene with with them running through the house and stuff, which is very unnatural for, like, at least what he was doing was unnatural for a dog, and I think the animation just wasn't quite pulled off. So I was like, and then some of the like I said already, some of the melding between live action and CG was rough. I was like, oh boy. And then, but I don't know, maybe a third of the way or more, I was like, all right, and got into it. And then by the end of it, I was like, this is a really good movie. I thought so.
Was at any point where all of you like, this dog's gonna die? And I was like prepared for heartbreak. Like, when that guy's like goes and busts up his tent and he realizes he's not there, and he's gonna find him.
Yeah.
And you're like, he's gonna shoot the fucking dog. He's gonna shoot the goddamn dog. This dog's gonna give his life for people. He's gonna choose people over the fucking woods.
That would have been rough.
And I know, I was bracing
I was
for like.
I was pretty sure. Because it's just the title of the movie. I was pretty sure it's like, okay, the dog's gonna end up in the wild, and really the only way for that to happen is for the dude to die.
Yeah.
Which is a lot. Was surprisingly easy to handle.
Dude,
I would've-
This movie
Harrison
taught
Ford
me
dying?
more.
yeah,
Yeah.
compared to the dog dying.
We've already went through that once. It's fine.
Oh yeah, that's right. It would've
Harrison
been-
Ford got shot in another movie. He died. I'm fine with it. He died again in this one, and I'm just like, I thought you were already dead.
I've grieved. Yeah. One thing that this movie has shown me even more, once again, that people have this amazing ability to not give a fuck about the death of people and to definitely give fucks about animals.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's pretty because like every time, like at one point the dog like almost got like off screen, he got hit by a stick and somebody goes like, oh, and I'm
I
like,
know.
dude, how do you watch anything? Were you that hurt
I
by
think-
this scene?
I think it's more like, so you don't get many movies where the dog is the main. Like you get Homeward Bound, where I expected this dog to go home too. By the way, I was
I
waiting
thought
like
about
the
it.
entire movie. I was like, when's he gonna start running home? So
Oh yeah, like the way. What is it? The way? No, not the way back. That's the other
yeah,
one.
Homeward Bound.
Bound. That's where
Bound,
yeah,
yeah.
they run home. So I was like, as soon as I found out the dog was the main character, I was like, and then he got stolen from somewhere.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, he's gonna run home. And the
Yeah.
entire movie, I'm like, this is gonna be a long movie.
Yeah.
It's like the
Yeah.
end credits are like, maybe in the deleted scenes, he's gonna run home.
Director's cut?
Yeah, I don't know. I really feel like maybe he's going home at some point. I just like, it's just so, like, you don't get a lot of movies that the dog is the main character.
Yeah.
And so, whenever the dog gets hit, you're like, ah, no. Like, I can watch a person get punched in the face. I've watched the new Evil Dead movie with razor blades, and I'm like, ah, whatever, it's fine. You know, it's not what I want to see, but like, it's not a big deal. If a dog get hit by a stick, and you're like, no, poor puppy, and you just want to like coddle him, and it's like, it's not first, he's a fake dog, CG. He
Yeah.
didn't get hurt.
Yeah, I think it's all about the innocence of animals.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so like a person, like, oh well, they're bad guys, you know. Yeah, he got hurt, but he'll get back up. I've been hurt before, you know. It happens. But like
Yeah.
dogs, it's like they don't even know why, you know. They don't understand. They don't. They're just perfectly innocent. So it's kind of like, you know, I think that's why dog
I guess,
deaths
too-
and dog damage, you know, hurts people so much.
I guess too, depending on your interactions with dogs, most people's interactions with dogs have always been good. So wholesome, like you always have had like a good experience with a dog. Like I've had people, like you said, who are assholes. So I can be like, well, maybe they're just a dickhead and like the rest of their life. Maybe, you know, we know people are both good and bad and all that. With dogs, for the most part, a lot of your interactions are just positive, and so you're just like, don't hurt the good. It's like a good thing.
Yeah.
And you're so wholesome, and like you're so nice. Please don't hurt this dog. Like all of my emotions are wrapped up in this dog right now. Like, so yeah, I don't know. And then you're dealing with, I mean, once you break the story down, you're dealing with a man's grief over his child dying, and like you're just like, holy shit. Like this is
Yeah.
actually like, I could imagine that a college class could go over this book
Mhm.
because of how in depth it is about like how humans are, nature versus nurture, like all this crazy, like, you know.
Well, I think there was a cool line where he was like, he begged for food. The dog begged Harrison Ford for food,
Mhm.
and then he was like, "What? You're begging? You're not my pet." And I had a moment where I was like, "Oh, it's because they're friends." And I was like, well, "Actually, it's kind of like he's his son in a way, because it's like he's grieving the loss of his son, and this is like sort of not a replacement, but
Surrogate,
sort of
yeah.
surrogate." Yeah. So it was kind of cool, like just to have that like double meaning in there
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a good story. I can see why, you know, it's a high school read, because it's definitely, especially dealing with grief, like you know, high school is around that age where you can start losing people, you know, a lot more often.
Yeah,
So like,
yeah.
definitely, you know, definitely interesting subject matter.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I would say it's so we got to figure out Rotten Tomatoes score. So it's in February,
Mhm.
which means that it was not well received, most likely, or we're coming out of the trash.
Who made this movie?
I don't know.
20th Century Fox.
Oh yeah.
Oh, 20th Century Studios now. Did you
I'm
notice
sorry.
that?
No, I
Yeah,
did not.
Yeah, actually, it was because Disney changed
Oh,
to
yeah.
studios, and it said studios in the opening. I noticed that there also wasn't any name drops at all. Like there literally wasn't a single title card in the beginning. Like
Oh,
I didn't know
yeah.
Harrison Ford was in it until I
And-
saw Harrison Ford on
and-
screen.
Did you
Uh,
not recognize his voice narrating?
No,
Oh,
I didn't
he
actually
didn't
recognize.
sound
Well,
anything
maybe
like
I-
him.
Did anyone else recognize that Amy Pond or whatever her name in it was in it?
Oh yeah, she was that girl that was like, oh stop.
The wealthy girl that the bad guy
Yeah,
Yeah.
was towing along. That was Karen Gillan.
yeah.
I did.
That was
Yeah,
her.
I noticed. I was like,
Once she took
looks
her hat
familiar.
off, yeah.
Yeah, I knew she looked familiar,
Yeah.
and yeah, now that you say that for sure.
And then there was another guy in the beginning that I recognized and could not place him. I don't know his name, but I've seen him in a couple of other things. So I'm like, why are all these like... And then Harrison Ford shows up and I'm like, the fuck am I in?
Yeah.
Like...
Well, I think it was like, it's also, like, I think the reason why they skipped that title sequence is because kids don't give a shit who's
That's
in a movie.
true. That's very true.
You know, so it's like, why even waste time on it?
And to be honest, it might just be in the trailer. Like,
That's true. I
People might
guess-
just be like, "Oh yeah, Harrison Ford's in it. I saw him."
Oh, he's
Whereas
on
we
he's
are
on
like-
the cover. So I was like, oh, it's Harrison Ford, and that's all I saw was the cover with Harrison Ford, you know, all scruffy and shit with the dog. I was like, all right.
Yeah.
And y'all start
Yeah.
talking about, oh, it's a boy and his dog. I'm like, well, okay.
It's sure as fuck not, because he's old as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually was very, very scared in the beginning. So the first like 15 seconds
Like
of the
actually
movie,
scared. Like were you?
yeah, like
were
I
you
was, I almost, it wasn't good. So I got scared in the beginning because I saw this dog, I saw shitty CG, and I went, oh my god, is he about to talk? I got so scared.
I was thinking, hey, I wonder if this movie would be better if they were talking.
I completely
So
disagree.
we went all the way towards the end. The dog has never talked, and he encounters the wolves, and I'm like, I wonder if he's gonna start talking. And then I was like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
We've gone, almost. There's 20 minutes left in this movie. They're not gonna all of a sudden bring it on us and be like, hey there, wolf.
Yeah, and it's
Oh,
voice
shit, he
acted by
talks.
Jonah Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could see where you're coming from though, because it's like, oh, well, now he's talking to other, but he would be talking to the other dogs.
Yeah, there were
Yeah.
other dogs prior,
Yeah.
and he's just very quiet and reserved.
Very reserved.
so we got to figure out Rotten Tomatoes score.
I'm gonna go with an 80.
80. Fuck.
I'm adding 10 to mine, so 82.
I'm going 55.
55.
Yeah.
You rated.
I
you
realize-
rated Fantasy Island higher than that.
I realize, and I was wrong. So I'm trying to be right this time.
Yeah, I'm going with 80 because it's one of those things. Because Rotten Tomatoes, once again, we've said this pretty much every episode, but it's all about, okay, would you or would you not recommend
I don't
this?
think
And I
people
think
would
that
recommend
80% of critics would say, yeah, this is fine. This is great. Whatever.
So.
All right,
I
well,
think they're
I
being-
gotta look it up on
I think
my
they're,
phone.
yeah, you got to look it up. I think they're being ruder than,
It's probably true.
because they're critics and they're gonna be like, this CG was. At times I could tell this wasn't a real dog as he was drowning in a river. I really want a real dog to be thrown in a river and drowned for me to enjoy this film experience.
All right, 66.
Haha, yes.
So
That
I
was
was
right.
so I actually guessed 60 at the beginning because I which is kind of a hedging your bets guess, but yeah, it is it's around a 66 in there. I mean, it's one of those movies where it's like where the CG wasn't spectacular. Like when they were on the snow, I noticed it was much better, and I think that's because it was probably just CG snow.
Yeah.
So like that it helped, but it got better as it went along, and I actually noticed I think I enjoyed this movie a lot less than everybody else in the theater until like the last 25% because everybody seems so like enraptured by this, and I'm just sitting here waiting for me to like it, and
Yeah.
and by the end I did, but it took me longer.
I got the same way where I was like, at times I was like, all right, we can speed up a little bit.
Yeah.
Like it was just, and that's where I think that classic literature comes from, is because classic literature is not quick. And it's like watching an old movie. Old movies are just slow paced, and old books are slow paced. And so like their source material is kind of slow, so it's going to be slow. And so I kept having to kind of think about, be like, okay, this is probably because it's a book. They're not going to change it too far from what the book is. So
Yeah.
I give it.
I give it
What do you give it?
8 gold nuggets.
8 gold nuggets. I give
Thrown
it
right back into the river.
7 alive sled dogs out of 10.
I'll give it a.
Brett's gonna give it 4.
No, I'm gonna give it a 6, 6.5. I don't know. It's hard to rate because it's definitely not my movie,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I can appreciate what it is. So I'm gonna give
Would
it a
you
6.5.
say it's a good kids movie?
Oh, it's a great kids movie.
So base it off of that.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
I'm
what
gonna
I
call
was
it.
basing
I'm
it
gonna call it a 8.5 for kids.
Wow.
Because it's like the best animal movie I've seen in a long time.
Are you kidding
Probably
me?
the
Are
only
you telling me
kids
that
animal movie.
G-Force is not your favorite movie that's ever existed?
No. Well, it's
All
not
right, on
better
G-Force.
than it's not better than the G-Force GameCube game.
I'm
Okay.
out. I'm out.
I didn't play
I'm
that.
out. I'm out of here.